Today we'll be working on lesson 6.4, which is common logarithms and change of base. Now every time you say common logarithm, it means it's logarithm that you're used to seeing. And they're common because even on the calculator, the only log that will show on your calculator, which is next to the 7, is the common logarithm. So what does that mean? Remember when you had square root, for example, of 5? We said that you assume that if there's no number on the outside, then the number is 2, and you don't have to write it. So square root of 5 can be written as such without the 2, the index on the outside. It's the same thing with the log. So let me erase that. So every time you see a log like this, then you will directly assume that there should be a 10, a small 10 written next to the G over here. So that's what common logarithm is when you have the base to be 10. And of course you don't write it, you can just write log and you assume that the base is 10. So let's start with the first example. Use a calculator to evaluate each expression to 3 decimal places. When no base is given, it is understood to be 10. And the calculator works in base 10, so the log, as we said over here, it means it's 1 that has a base 10. So let's start on number 1, log 6. So we turned on your calculator, and to find log 6, you would just hit log 6, and you would find the answer. And as they told us, they want 3 decimal places, so 0.778. So let's write this down. Let me make this bigger so I don't make a mess. So 1 is going to be 0.70778. Now let's try to find log 15. So log 15 would be 1.176. So 1.176. Log of 0.125. So as you can see, this is pretty simple. So I want you to go ahead, go faster than me, and try to find the rest of this from 1 up till 8. So log of 0.125 is negative 0.903. Now I'm not going to use the calculator, I'm going to just write what each one of them is. So go ahead, try to use the calculator to find them. Log of 108 is going to be 2.033. Log of 1.1 is going to be 0.041. Log of 0.87 is going to be negative 0.060. Now let's move on to 4 and 8. Log of 0.3 is going to be negative 0.523. And yeah, there is no reason for me writing in black, it's just the pen switched, so there's no significance for that. Log of 0.6 is negative 0.222. So that was pretty simple. You just put it in the calculator and it gives you the answer. So let me make this smaller so you can actually see the whole thing. Okay, now look at the logs above and finish the statements for log x. So if the argument of a log, and remember, argument is the number on the inside. So for example, the argument in this case would be 6. Here it would be 15. So if the argument of a log, let me just use the same color, which is red. If the argument of a log is larger than 1, so let's see which arguments are larger than 1. So 6 is bigger than 1, 15 is bigger than 1, 1.1 is bigger than 1, log 108 is bigger than 1. So basically those are the ones bigger than 1. Then the answer will be, so let's look at the answers. This is a positive 1, it's a positive, it's a positive, it's a positive. So every single time the argument or the number inside the log is a positive 1 or a number larger than 1, then the answer will be positive. Now let's try to use a different color, and move on to number 10. If the argument of a log is between 0 and 1, it means it's 0 point something. then the answer will be what? So let's see. This is 0.3, so this is between 0 and 1. This 2. This is as well, and this is as well. So let's look at the answers. This is going to be a negative answer, a -1, a negative answer, and a negative answer. So then the answer will be negative. So it's very important to know this fact. If the argument of a log is larger than 1, it means it's bigger than 1, then they expect the answer to be positive. If the argument or the number inside the log is between 0 and 1, then the answer would be negative. So keep that in mind. Now, this is the first thing that you need to know in this lesson. Now, the other thing that you need to know is when they give you something like this. Express each logarithm in terms of common logarithm. So basically how to switch bases. Then approximate its value to 3 decimal places. For basically what they're asking you is that if you look at this example, which is log 9 base 4, they want you to change it into a common logarithm. It means a logarithm with base 10. So for you to do, or basically a logarithm that where you don't need to write the base, because log 9, for example, over here, it's a log 9 base 10. But remember, we do not write the base when it's 10. And log 4, as you can see, it is log 4 with no base, so you assume that it's a common logarithm with base 10. Now for you to do that, what you need to do is basically just put log 9 over log 4. So log of the number on the inside over the log of the base, which is in this case 4. Okay? Then you use the calculator to approximate your answer. Okay? So special hint, make sure to use parentheses every time you type this in the calculator. It should look something like this. Okay? So let's try number 11 together. So 11. Log 7 base 3. To solve this, and first of all, if they ask you to change the base or to write it as a common logarithm, so you need to know what the question would be. If they ask you to express this in terms of common logarithm, basically means that you have to write it in a way where there's no base, which is the base 10, but you don't have to write it. So you would write it as log 7 over log 3. So let's try to do that. So you can put log 7 and close parentheses over log 3 and you close parentheses. You press enter and then there you go. That would be your answer. So the answer for this one is 1.77. But they want 3 numbers or 3 decimal places, so 1.771, and that's going to be the answer. Now there is another way to do that. Let me show you. Like, you don't have to change it into common logarithm if the answer is not to change it, if they just want you to find log 7 base 3. So basically you go to math, you go all the way down to where they say log base. You see that? Log base. You press enter and there you go. You have to just fill it in. But as you can see, it takes a lot of time. So here you put that the base is 3 and the 7, and then you go out of the parentheses and you press enter and it gives you the same answer. But as you can see, this is much easier. It doesn't take as much time as this one, because here you have to go to math and then scroll all the way down to log base, then enter the base, enter the argument, and then you get your final answer. So I think this is much easier. Now let me do one more and then you do the rest on your own. I'm going to do 13. So first of all, I need to change it to a common logarithm. So log 35 over log 2. Again, I'm going to choose the easier one or the faster one. So log of 35, as you can see, I'm closing the parentheses and then putting divided by log of 2. Close parentheses and press enter. You get 5.129. Remember, you always need it to be 3 decimal places. So 5.129. And that's the idea. So please go ahead, finish 1 through 18 on your own. Now let's move on to the other part of this worksheet. Solve each equation, round to 3 decimal places all the time, 3 decimal places. Now, in order to do something like that, it would be easy to change the logarithm form using common logarithm. Let's see what they mean. Now, as you can see, you need the exponent. Every time you are asked about the exponent, you use log. And they told you to change it to logarithmic form. So, log, and the base go there, of 50 is equal to p. You see that? So, if you want to double check your answer to make sure that you wrote the log right, 8 to the power p gives you 50. So, it's the same thing. So, you're right, you wrote the log right. Now, to do this, they want you to write it common logarithm. So, you can either go to math, scroll all the way down to log base, but it takes time, and then enter 8, then 50, and then you get the answer. This is one way to do it, but since here they were specifically asking for common logarithm, so to get the full grade you have to change it into log 50 over log 8, and you enter it on the calculator this way, or the other way is going to give you the same answer, but remember this way you have to be very careful. Yes, you have to close parentheses divided by log 8. Close parentheses, and it will give you the final answer, and as you can see it's exactly the same no matter what way you used. So it's going to be 1.881. Now another thing to do, as you can see this is a fraction, so what do we do every time we want to enter a fraction? You do alpha y equals, press enter. On the top of this you would press log of 50, close parentheses, and then down there you would write log 8, close parentheses, go out. So as you can see now it's a fraction. So here you don't have to worry about the parentheses. Here if you don't put parentheses your whole equation will be wrong. So you press enter and it's going to give you exactly the same number. Now let me show you some of the mistakes that some of you do. So you put log 50, you forget to close parentheses, and you divide by log 8. Now this will give you, and if you press enter, it will not give you the right answer, because here the calculator thinks that you're putting log, and inside the log there is 50 divided by this log, which is not right. So you have to close the parentheses divided by log 8. So that is the whole lesson. So I'm going to do one more, which is 21. If you want to solve an exponential form or you need to find an exponent, you always use the log. So log base 5 of 106 would give you b. To check your answer, 5 to the power b is equal to 106, which is right. So you log of 106 over log of 5, and then also you enter it in the calculator and you'll see that it will be 2.898. Now I hope this was helpful. I hope you see this as an easy lesson. Again, there are only two things that you need to know. The first one is that common logarithm, they mean by that is that when you have a base that is a 10 and you don't have to write it. So this is the first thing that you need to know about this lesson. The next thing that you need to know about this lesson is that every time you have a certain base, for example log, or let me use something that we didn't work on, log 23 base 9, you can write this as a common logarithm. So you can write it as log 23 over log 9, and then you can enter it in your calculator to find the answer. So this is called change of base. So if they ask you to change the base or to write it in common logarithm, this is what you do. Now I hope you have a lovely evening, and I'll see you tomorrow in class.